Good evening, everyone. It is Sunday, November 14th. We're going to start off with the most dynamic, exciting weather that's taking place here in the United States, and that's in the Alaska Panhandle. They're getting ready for a week full of snowstorms for many of those cities over there. And by the time you get to the final snowstorm, the entire Alaska Panhandle will be affected by that. The Alaska Panhandle doesn't always get snowstorms. A lot of times it's just too warm, and for the first few snowstorms, that's going to be a big question mark, and it's probably not going to affect the entire Panhandle. The final storm, 6 to 12 inches, which will be affecting the entire Panhandle. Each system will be bringing probably about, some of them will be bringing about 2 to 5 inches of snow. There will be rain mixed in. Some of them 3 to 6, probably 1 or 2 of a 6 to 12. But when all is said and done, probably, I would guess, no more than 20 inches in any one particular spot. The precipitation over there tends to change, usually to rain for a little bit by each storm. But when you head up into the central parts of Alaska, by Fairbanks, Alaska, boy, is it cold. It is extremely cold when you go up into Fairbanks, Alaska, Arctic Village, Alaska, and the wood that is burning is producing major air quality alerts. We have temperatures dropping to 20 below, and even during the day, the temperatures are not even hitting zero in the city, and it's only November, and that's just quite phenomenal stuff. What's going on over there? We gotta hope that it doesn't come down here. All the other stuff is coming down here. Those storms that are developing in the Gulf of Alaska, that came down here just this morning. It raced down here as fast as can be, and it brought accumulating snow to much of the upper Midwest, which we'll hear more about that for tomorrow. The big story here in the lower 48 states is the storm system that's over in the Pacific Northwest, which has an affiliated cold front, and the cold front is a strong cold front, which looks like it's going to be affecting the entire country unless you live in the deep south, such as Key West, Florida. The cold front will bring a dynamic change in temperatures, especially to a city like Amarillo, Texas, where high temperatures on Tuesday will be in the mid-80s, highs later the next day, highs only in the mid-50s, with temperatures dropping into the 20s and 30s. West Virginia is another city which will be seeing tremendous temperature differences between one day to the next after the passage of this cold front. This forecast is quite easy to remember. The cold front will be moving past the west coast on Monday night. Peak warmth, therefore, will be occurring on Monday for the west coast. Peak warmth will be occurring on Tuesday for the plains, probably the Rockies as well. Peak warmth will be occurring on Wednesday for areas on the same longitude as the Chicago area, which is much of the Midwest, at least the eastern Midwest, and then the East Coast will be having peak warming occurring on Thursday. Cold front will be moving through the area in the evening or afternoons of the peak warming. Temperatures might even hit 60 degrees here in the Chicago area. And again, Amarillo, Texas, mid-80s. We certainly expect to see 90s in some areas of Texas as well. Rio Grande Village holds the record this week for the largest temperature differences between night and day. There will be some days where there will be a 40 to 50 degree difference between night and day. The Stanley, Idaho situation has calmed down a lot, and there's no longer a 50 degree temperature difference between night and day. Precipitation will likely fall along this front, for it is a strong cold front. Part of that front will be touching the Gulf of Mexico, it seems. So I would imagine there is moisture associated with this cold front. And that brings this podcast to an end. I do want to mention cities. I don't know if I mentioned it yet, but we have cities which you normally would not be going into the 70s this time of the year on the East Coast. Will be going into the 70s on Thursday, such as Philadelphia and probably all the other big cities as well. I don't know about Boston. I wish everybody a wonderful night, and I wish the people in Fairbanks Hatzlacha Rabbah in dealing with the bitter, bitter cold. I do want to point out one amazing thing, however, about the cold in Fairbanks, is that if you look at the wind speeds are between 0 and 1 miles per hour. So That's a true blessing to have to have winds like that. I've never heard of such a thing here in Chicago, and it's for an extended period. Just the winds are just really, really minor, and that is playing a major role in the radiational cooling that's taking place at night, especially since the days are only 6 hours long over there. You have long 18-hour nights with radiational cooling that's just off the charts or very high up on the charts. You can't get better than that with clear skies, no wind. And in Chicago, when we say no wind, that means light winds. But in this city, no wind means no wind. It is quite amazing to see stuff like that. Everyone have a good night and enjoy.